All right, let's jump right in. We all know blockchain for business holds a ton of promise, but man, getting it right is famously complicated. So today, we're going to break down how one company's platform is trying to solve one of the absolute biggest hurdles: digital identity. So Kaleido's whole pitch is this. They want to be the enterprise easy button. It's a really simple, powerful promise for a technology that is, let's be honest, anything but simple. The whole idea is to hide all that insane cryptographic complexity behind a simple button. Okay, so if Kaleido is the easy button, you gotta ask, right? What's the hardest part of this whole thing? What's the problem that's so tough that it actually needs an easy button in the first place? And there it is, the real roadblock. The thing that stops these networks from truly taking off isn't really about transaction speed or fancy smart contracts. It's identity. It all comes down to building a system where you can actually trust who you're dealing with, whether it's a giant bank or just a single person. That is the key to unlocking real scale. So here's our game plan. We're going to start at the bottom, looking at the technical foundation that all this trust is built on. Then we'll tackle the two big identity problems, one for organizations and one for individuals. And finally, we'll see how a smart orchestration layer pulls it all together and talk about what this means for the future of digital trust. Every great system needs a rock-solid foundation, and in this particular tech stack, that foundation is Hyperledger Besu. You can think of it as an enterprise-grade version of Ethereum, built from the ground up for the specific needs of large-scale business networks. So why do big companies lean towards Besu? Well, for starters, it's written in Java. Most corporate IT departments already have armies of Java developers, so they don't have to go out and hire a bunch of niche specialists. It's also got a super flexible license, and this is a big one. Its design puts security first by forcing you to manage your private keys on external, super secure hardware. And Besu isn't a one-trick pony. It offers different ways for the network to agree on the truth, what we call consensus, and it's tailored for different needs. For something like a supply chain, a simpler model based on trusted authorities is totally fine. But for high-stakes finance, you need something much more robust, something Byzantine fault-tolerant. That's just a fancy way of saying the network stays secure, even if some of the participants are actively trying to mess things up. All right, so we've got our foundation poured. Now let's move up to the first layer of the solution. How in the world do we establish real trust between the actual companies on the network? This is where Kaleido's Identity as a Service, or IDaaS, comes into play. So here's the core idea. Get rid of those anonymous, cryptic blockchain addresses. The goal is super simple, but incredibly powerful. Attach a verifiable, real-world corporate identity to every single transaction. Just think of it like a digital corporate ID badge that proves, without a doubt, that a specific certified company authorized that action. And the best part? This isn't built on some wild, unproven new technology. It uses the exact same public key infrastructure, or PKI, that has been securing the entire internet for decades. A company gets a standard digital certificate, an X.509 cert, from a trusted authority like VeriSign, and then that certificate gets publicly mapped on the blockchain. What you get is an unbreakable, perfectly auditable link between their real-world identity and everything they do on-chain. Okay, that makes sense. We figured out how to establish trust between the big organizations. But what about the millions of individual users who are going to interact with these networks? That brings us to the next really crucial piece of the puzzle: self-sovereign identity. Self-sovereign identity, or SSI, is a massive shift in thinking. For our entire digital lives, companies have held our data in their databases. With SSI, you hold it. You control your own identity in your own personal digital wallet, and you get to decide exactly what pieces of information you share and who you share them with. It all works in this really elegant little trust triangle. First, you have an issuer. Think your bank or your university. They give you a digital verifiable credential. You, the holder, store that credential safely in your wallet. Then, when an app, the verifier, needs to know something, like, are you over 18, you can prove just that single fact without ever showing them your full birthday, your address, or anything else. And this, right here, this is the real magic. This is what makes it all possible. It's powered by a type of cryptography called zero-knowledge proofs. It's the literal magic that lets you prove something is true without revealing any of the sensitive data that proves it. It is an absolute game changer for digital privacy. So let's recap. We have a secure foundation, we have identity for organizations, and we have identity for individuals. But how do you make all these incredible tools actually play nice together so you can build a real application? Well, that's the job of the orchestration layer, Hyperledger FireFly. The best way to think of FireFly is like the air traffic controller for your entire business network. It sits in the middle and expertly manages all the complex communication between the blockchain itself, your private databases, and all your other legacy systems. It just makes it all work together seamlessly. And what exactly is it controlling from its tower? Pretty much everything. It automates how new members get onboarded. It manages the entire life of a digital asset, from the moment it's created to when it's retired. It handles all those pesky compliance checks like KYC and AML, and it even enforces your company's specific business rules. It's the engine that makes the whole system actually usable in the real world.
All right, let's pull back and look at the big picture for a minute. Why does all this matter? Why is having a unified, full-stack approach to identity so incredibly critical right now in today's digital world?
Well, you can see the evolution pretty clearly right here. We're finally moving away from those old centralized systems where your data is stuck in a silo and you're locked into one vendor. This new model is all about being decentralized, working with other systems, and putting users back in control of their own data, using that awesome privacy-preserving tech we talked about. Now, if you're wondering just how urgent this shift is, just look at this number: 94%. That's the percentage of chief security officers who believe that the sheer complexity of their current identity systems actually makes them less secure. Think about that. The messy, patchwork system most companies have today is a giant security risk, which is exactly why a unified platform like this is so compelling. And this isn't just a cool idea on a whiteboard. This tech is already having a huge real-world impact. In banking, it's being used to automate secure payments for central bank digital currencies. In healthcare, it's finally letting patients take control of their own medical records. And for governments, it's a powerful tool to fight fraud and build public trust in things like land ownership. So look, if you take just one thing away from this whole explainer, let it be this: a real enterprise solution has to solve two massive problems at the same time. You have to establish absolute, bulletproof trust between huge institutions, and you have to protect the privacy and control of every single individual user. It's not one or the other, you have to do both. And that really leaves us with a final, pretty heavy question to think about. We are walking into an era of incredibly smart, AI-driven security threats. In a world like that, is our current, fragmented approach to identity even going to work anymore? Or is a unified, cryptographically secure identity fabric the only real path forward?